Hello and welcome to Issues and Insights, the show that keeps you up to date on all the great things going on in our community. I'm your host, Kendra Scott, and we're thrilled to be here today. Thank you for tuning in. Of course, we're entering the holiday season and everyone says Christmas is for the children. We think about ways to volunteer, ways to help kids to make sure they have a great Christmas. However, there are children in our community that need our assistance year-round. And one of the programs that makes sure that our children are taken care of and helped and assisted all throughout the year with so many needs is CASA. And we are honored today to have Norma Hatfield, the Executive Director of CASA, to tell us all about that program and how you can get involved to help some very special children with special needs. So welcome, Ms. Norma. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you.
First of all, we have to say congratulations because this CASA is the CASA of the Year award recipient. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we were very honored to be the Kentucky CASA Network's Program of the Year. You know, we weren't expecting it, but we were certainly excited about it. But you know, while we got the award and we put it on the table, we had to get back to work.
Right.
Because all these kids need us. But yes, we were really excited.
That's exciting. And that just is a testament to the hard work and the things that you do, because I like to think it's the Lord's work, what you're doing, but it's tough work as well. It's not sunshine and lollipops every day. So if you'll just tell us, for folks at home that don't know, what exactly is CASA? That is an acronym, obviously. So tell us what CASA is.
CASA stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates, and we're a nonprofit. We recruit and train and support volunteers that step up in the community to advocate for abused and neglected children that are in the family court system. And specifically, we serve children in the Hardin County, Fort Knox area.
Okay, and how long has CASA been around?
Well, our program has been around since about 2007, 2009, yeah.
So you've served lots and lots of children in that time.
Yes.
Because that's the sad thing, as we were talking earlier before going on camera, what is happening in the Commonwealth of Kentucky and specifically in Hardin County regarding our children? It's not bright news.
No, it's definitely not. Kentucky has been #1 in abuse and neglect for 3 years in a row. Which is sad all in itself. But what's been happening in Hardin County is that from 2016 to 2019, we were #1 in the family court petitions for our size compared to every place else across the state of Kentucky. And family court petitions, that's the documents that say these children have been potentially abused and neglected.
Wow. What do we attest that to?
I think that in general, I see substance abuse as to be one of the main problems, unfortunately. There's a lot of different factors that are out there, but that seems to be more prevalent. And what's really sad is while we were #1 in Hardin County for 2016 to 2019, then the pandemic hit.
Right.
And so kids stayed home. And we saw a dip in the number of cases, which, you know, first you would think, okay, that's great, is that not as many kids are being abused and neglected and we're not seeing all of that out there, but really what was happening is the kids were not out in public, they were not out in schools, so it's even sadder to think what's going on behind the closed doors.
Right.
So we were about 42.2% underreported for Hardin County.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot.
That's a lot, that's scary.
Yeah.
And then advocacy organizations across the Commonwealth started predicting that this summer and this fall, we would see a rise. And that is exactly what's happening because kids started going back to school, started going out in public. And to kind of put it in perspective, we have a child wait list. These are kids that are waiting for a CASA volunteer that we just don't have anybody for.
Right.
We had gotten that list down to about 43 kids in the May-June timeframe. We are now at 105 kids that are waiting for a volunteer, and we're still expecting more cases as we go into 2022, unfortunately.
Wow, that is a lot.
Yeah.
And I think people just aren't aware of that goes on in our communities. Unless you see it, hear it, or inundated with it, a lot of times we just think our community is wonderful and people are kind and everyone takes care of their children, but that high number tells us that's not always the case.
Yeah, and there are actually more cases out there, but for a judge to assign a child to a CASA, these are the worst cases, the more worrisome cases. And that's what really makes it so sad is, you know, the kids are going through what they're going through, then you have children that are assigned to a CASA, they're the even more, you know, extreme, worrisome cases, and they need a volunteer They are in the system. It's scary. There's so much that's going on. They're traumatized. There's so many people in and out of the system all the time.
True.
And that's the one thing that is so great about CASA, is that while all those things are going on around them and all those people are in and out, the volunteer is that one person they can count on throughout the life cycle of their case.
That is their constant, because as you said, kids are often, and we don't think about it again if you haven't lived that life, that they have a variety of social workers perhaps in their lives. They have different foster homes that they may have been in. So once they get in the system, I mean, it is really tricky to navigate. So as a small child, how do they navigate that? I mean, who would they turn to?
Well, and as an example, Larry Ho is one of our longtime volunteers, and he jotted down something for me. He actually, we had a Zoom meeting with the First Lady of Kentucky, Mrs. Bashir, and he jotted this down and he shared it, and he said, for the 3 boys that he advocates for, he said they've had 5 social workers, 4 therapists, 3 foster families, 2 school districts, but 1 CASA volunteer.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah, and it's just, when you think about it, when a child, on average, children in Hardin County, they do change foster homes at least 3 times. I mean, think about that. So you've been traumatized. You've gone through whatever it is that has put you in the family court system, which is a lot of times is really bad. And then you're changing foster homes 3 times. And multiple social workers and all these different things that are going on, and it is definitely a lot for a child. But to know they're going to have that one person visit, the one person to call, that one person to talk to them and ask them how they feel, that is, you can't put a price on that.
You really can't. Yeah, that's immeasurable. That's their rock. That's kind of their stable force.
Yeah.
So tell us, how does one become a CASA volunteer, and what all does that entail?
Well, you have to be 21 or older, and you have to pass a background check. We want to make sure our kiddos are safe.
Yes.
But you fill out an application. You can go to our website at casaheartland.org, and then we will get you, after we do the background check, you have to go through a training class. One, we have to train you to make sure that you know what's going to happen in the court system, prepare you for the cases that you might be working with the children and the scenarios that are out there. We hold your hand when you go through your first visit and your first case, and you're going to spend at the start of a case, you spend a little more time. You're learning about all the different people that surround the child and the situation. But once you kind of have the lay of the land, it's about 2 to 6 hours a month that you're giving of your time.
That's not much at all to make that life-lasting impact.
Yeah.
Because I think people think, oh my goodness, it's, I'm moving a child in with me and I'm becoming their primary caregiver, and it's a huge, huge commitment. But for just that little amount of time, that's amazing, the impact they can make.
Yeah. And again, when you think about all the things that the child is dealing with, 2 to 6 hours.
That's nothing.
No.
That's time you can spend, that we spend in the mall or whatever. And how long does a case typically last? Is a volunteer match with a child? Will it be a couple months, a year? How long could it last?
On average, about 18 months. Some cases do go longer, unfortunately. They're just more complicated and things change. But on average, about 18 months.
Wow. And how's a volunteer match with a child?
We are looking at the cases, and of course the judge is kind of ranking which are the more severe that need to be at the top of the list. But what we try to do is, in the interview process with the volunteer, we kind of go through the different cases that are out there, because there are some things some people are like, I just do not want, I can't deal with that.
Sure.
So we try to do a pretty good match as far as the scenario of what's happening with the child, and then the skills of the volunteer.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what ages do you serve? How young and how old are the kids in the program?
Birth to 18.
Wow.
Yeah. And sometimes some children stay in the system longer. It just makes sense. They're just not ready at 18 for a variety of different reasons. So they may go a little bit longer, but typically up to 18.
Yes, and I assume that there's siblings and that sort of situation.
Yeah, and so that's another point that is definitely important to mention, is that some cases may have a sibling group of 5.
Oh, wow.
but you're doing a visit with all 5.
Yes.
And in some cases, it's just one child. It kind of just depends.
It depends completely. Well, I want to kind of circle back a little bit because you mentioned that the First Lady of Kentucky, you had the chance to meet with her, which is amazing, and you shared how great she was. And she did a video, is that correct?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so we were just so excited. We had reached out to her, and of course her passion is helping children, and she's been looking at what's happening to kids across the state of Kentucky. So when we reached out to her and she knew that Hardin County was popping up, unfortunately, in something we don't want to pop up in, which is the number of court petitions, she absolutely said, I want to meet with you all right away. Good. She was originally coming in person.
Oh, okay.
And then the numbers for COVID incidents went up in that particular month, and so we had to make sure that we were safe, and so we did a virtual meeting. But she was just so kind, so caring. She said, I would love to do a video for you. What's interesting, though, is we did the video, had the meeting, I think in October, early October. At that time, there were 75 kids on the wait list. So from then to now, we're at 105. But the video's out there on our Facebook page and on our website for folks to see.
Definitely. Good. And that is touching that she, connected and that she reached out and said, let's do something immediately. Yeah. So that's awesome. So people check that out. And then, of course, let's talk a little bit about the empty chair, this little tiny chair. It gets me every single time. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, that chair, we can't show pictures of the kids.
Right.
We have to protect their privacy, and we don't want to put them in a situation where they could be harmed or anything like that. But the chair is significant of children that are waiting on a seat for a CASA. And so we've got this little sign on there. It's a little bit messy because unfortunately I have to keep changing the number because the number is going up. But it actually, most of the time when it's not traveling with me, right, it sits next to my desk, and it's just a reminder every day why I come into work, and it just, this is what's going on today. And I hate to say the motivation, but it's just the motivation for all of us to work even harder because these kids in our community need us so much.
It's that visual reminder, because you think, look how tiny that chair is. So those are the tiny little lives that you're helping. And so what can we do to help that number go down? What can our community do?
First, volunteer their time. If they're not even sure, just come talk to us. You can call us. Our phone number is 270-982-2274, or go to our website at casaheartland.org. And, if you're just not sure, we'd love to talk to you. You can fill out the information, and then if we think there, is something you want to do, we'll do the background check, and then we'll set you up for training. Training is virtual. Oh, good. So folks can do it either during the day, depending on schedules, or they can do it in the evening. I think our next class is starting, I believe, January 11th, but you can contact us and we'll give you all those details. The second thing is businesses. We're working on a new program where businesses allow their employees that want to be a volunteer, they sponsor their time.
Wonderful.
And so if somebody wants to do that, give them a little bit of time off to go visit with the child and do the court reports, or go to court and speak on behalf of the child. And then we will give the business a tax letter for the value of that time, and that's a donation in, to me, multiple ways. Yes. In the physical way of helping a child, and in a monetary way as well. So for us, that's a new one that we're wanting to try to look at, because that's one of the things we hear is, I can't get off from work. Yeah. And so if businesses would consider doing that, that would be a huge help. And then, of course, we're looking at fundraising events and things like that, and monetary donations, because we have to get the word out, because the numbers are climbing, and we have to train the volunteers as they come in. Yes. And so the monetary support is helpful as well.
That's great. And one of the great things that you are doing to raise that's a perfect segue, is Casa Cooking in the Heartland. Recipes from the Heartland, and this is a great cookbook, and I love that you've got something for all of us. So whether you're a culinary chef or you're just a basic cook, there's a recipe in there for you, things you can do with your kiddos, and the recipes came from your volunteers, your board members. Tell us a little bit about that, how this all came about.
Yeah, so we have board members that have recipes. We have folks within the community that sent us some of the sweetest letters, and we tried to capture some of their stories in there. We've had folks from radio stations, Tony York.
Oh, yeah.
He put his fried green tomatoes and marmalade sauce in there, which is absolutely incredible.
Yes.
Clarence Sams, he did we did some cooking segments, and those videos are on our Facebook page as well. Some of them are really fun. E-Town Police.
Oh, that's great.
Put something in there as well. And so there's, like you said, there's a little bit of something for everyone.
Yes.
And to me, that's part of the community coming together. It's a legacy of sharing, those homemade foods that, come from the heart. At the same time, when you buy a cookbook, you're helping us serve a child, and that's a longer legacy
It really
that
is.
you're contributing to.
Yeah, I see there's one here from Amy Hubbs, a Hollywood producer
Yes.
and writer.
Yes, and Mrs. Bashir put one in there as well.
Oh, fantastic. So, I mean, this is a celebrity cookbook. And only $15, which is really affordable. So we were talking about that. Some of us collect cookbooks, myself included, and some of us, we like paper. I don't like looking on my phone or the internet to get a recipe, because I'm going to print it anyway. So having it paper, something you can touch and feel. There's a beautiful message from you at the beginning. And I mean, just some really good stuff in here, really diverse and all that good stuff. And this time of year, we're all cooking. So I think everybody needs to pick one up. So where can they get these?
They can call our office. They can come by and pick one up. We can, you can pay online on our website, and we will get that to you.
Awesome. Now, where's your office located?
245 West Dixie.
Awesome. And so you said you do serve all of Hardin County, and that does encompass Fort Knox.
Yes.
As well. So that's amazing. And again, I hate to hear that our community is number one. What can folks do if they suspect child abuse and neglect? Who do we call CASA? Do we call the police? Do you call the doctor? What's the protocol? Because so often people are like, I'm not really sure what to do, but I know I need to do something.
Yeah, I will tell you, we're not the organization specifically to call, but if you're not sure, definitely call us and we will get you connected. We have community resources on our website as well, and there's information there to the hotlines to make that call.
Wonderful. That's good. And talk a little bit, again, going back to volunteers. Sorry, I'm all over the place.
That's okay.
But talking about the volunteers, what qualities, what are you looking for in volunteers?
Well, somebody that has a heart for kids, I think, is probably the number one skill trait that you want to have, because these cases can be heartbreaking. But I will tell you that we've had some kids that have gone through the system, then they've gone into adulthood, and they still connect with their volunteers. It becomes such an amazing relationship. It's a lifelong thing for these children. It really is. And they remember. That's what's so neat about this, is sometimes the volunteers say, I'm not sure if I'm making a difference or not. I'm doing the court reports, I'm doing the visits and stuff, but I'm just not 100% sure. And then later, a lot of times, the kids will come back and say, you will be one that I remember for the rest of my life. Sure. You were the only one in this period of time, and that's so important. But I would say, trait-wise, it's caring for kids, having that compassion, and of course, then we got to do the training and the background check.
Oh heavens, yes, that's so important, because I think people sometimes feel like, I don't have the requirements, I don't, I'm not good enough, I won't be able to really help make that difference. But like you said, you just have to have the heart for it, and make the time. Yeah,
we hold your hand and we get you through it.
There you go, and that's what it's all about. So about how many volunteers do you have currently?
Right now we have about 38.
Okay.
That also took a dip, which, there's a correlation. Kids on the wait list because they don't have a volunteer. And, this summer when the incidence rate for COVID went up and there were some publicly known folks that passed from COVID, it made a few folks nervous, and so they had to kind of step back. But we can do our visits virtually, and then we send a staff member to go actually check on them physically. We do our training virtually. We have pivoted with COVID so that we can accommodate, high risk. We do screening before you enter the house to make sure nobody that's in the home is ill, the volunteer's not ill, and court is right now virtual for the most part. So it's relatively low risk, and it is high dividends as far as helping the kiddos.
Yes. Is there a specific group of volunteers that you need more of? Say, example, do you need more men in your program, that sort of thing?
it doesn't matter.
Good.
But I would love to see more men step up. I think for a lot of the boys in particular, they just seem to, when they're younger, they seem to relate more. We would love to see more Hispanics as well, African Americans. It just, anybody that's willing to help a child, that just being there for them is you know, primarily what we need. But yes, we would love to have more diversity and anybody
right.
that has a heart.
Yes, because you can be a retiree, you can be a working parent, you can be a community or college student.
Yes.
You know, all those things. People that are studying to be in the social services field, I think. Because your staff is tiny. Tell us a little bit about your staff, because y'all do mighty, mighty work with the tiny staff.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We have right now, there are 4 other staff members, and one of them is part-time. And you know, Patty, she does our training. She's a retired teacher.
Yes, we love Patty Mayhew.
Yes, and so
she's a live wire.
That's her strength right
Yes.
there, is connecting with people and helping them learn what they need to learn. But she's also our lead volunteer manager.
Okay.
So she helps sort out the cases with the different folks and stuff. We've got Natalie Cubbage. She is volunteer manager, but she also helps us with the business aspects. We have to maintain our accreditations and things like that. So she helps me with that and just all the other business pieces. Amy Hollingsworth. She came on board in May. She has been a blessing. She also does volunteer management and helps us with the business piece. And then Larry he's our volunteer, but he also helps us in the office part-time as well. Yeah.
That's great. And then of course we know that you stay extremely busy because you wear many hats, and you are such a big advocate in Frankfurt. So would you like to touch a little bit about all the other work that you do on behalf of kids?
Yeah, so I guess just very briefly, you know, I had no clue all this was happening in Kentucky. That's why I appreciate being on the show and to share a lot of this information. My grandkids were removed from their home 7 years ago, and in that particular case, there were drugs in the home as well. And they went into the system, and once I learned everything about the system, it was pretty overwhelming.
Oh, sure.
And I wanted to see some change. And so I started advocating specifically for kinship families, the grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins and even older siblings that are, with no notice, stepping in, taking sometimes 5 to 8 children.
Oh, yeah.
And there was very little support. And so I started out with that, started working with legislators. At one point, I did a petition to get legislators' attention.
Yes.
Worked with Dennis Parrott at the time, and I got 6,000 stories.
Wow.
And I packaged them up like a phone book, and I gave them to every single senator.
Wow,
and,
good for you.
Yeah, so that's kind of how it started. But as I learned more and more about what's going on, I ended up working with Kentucky Youth Advocates and some other organizations, and I wanted to be a CASA volunteer because I felt like I could do even more.
Yes.
And then once I did the volunteer training, I said, hey, I like this. And they just happened to have the opening as the director, so here I am.
Ta-da!
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing how we get placed exactly where we're meant to be?
That for me, I really feel like that God just put in every single scenario, even if it was bad, he took something and he made it positive.
Yes.
You know, so I had retired at Fort Knox Civil Service, and I thought I was done in 2012.
Oh, you were done with that part.
Yeah, and it was interesting because I had actually prayed about that, and I'm like, God, what am I supposed to do next? And boy,
placed it right in your lap.
He did.
Well, our community is grateful for that because your heart and your passion, your drive has made such a difference for our community and for the children, which is what it's all about. So we can't thank you enough for your leadership and your heart. And we hope that folks will really pray about this, consider this, and pick up the mantle and come out and help some children. So tell us one more time before we wrap up, how can folks get in touch with you all and how can they learn more about CASA?
They can go to our website, casaheartland.org, or check us out on Facebook. You can also call us at 270-982-2274. We'd love to talk to you.
Yes, and just talk to a CASA volunteer and let them tell you their stories. Talk to a board member, find out why they're involved. I love that about the cookbook because there were quotes from people saying why they're involved and engaged, and so that alone will convince you. But just talk to someone that's been in the program, and I think that will speak volumes. So And keep in mind this little empty chair. So think this Christmas when you're gathering with your family and you're thinking about the kiddos, think about those that are in the system, those who have been abused and neglected, and what you can do to help. So we hope that you will support the cookbook, that you'll call your legislators, that you'll get Kentucky out of that #1 ranking. Could we be number 50 in something? That would be nice. If we could be 50 in abuse and neglect cases. So, and if you want to volunteer, they would love to have you. You can make that time. You can also make sure you check their Facebook for those links where you can watch those videos and see, because I love the video that you all have called, oh dear, what's it called?
So what are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for? Yes.
And it has the empty chair, and our volunteers are featured in that video.
Oh, wonderful. So you might see some local faces of folks that you know. Wonderful. Well, Miss Norma, thank you so much for your time and for all that you do. We can't thank you enough, especially during this busy holiday season. Thank you for coming in and sharing with us.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. So I hope that you will take all this wonderful information and figure out a way that you can support CASA right here in the Heartland, whether it's fundraising, being a volunteer, or just giving your support to their team and their staff. There's a way that you can make a difference for a child and help fill that empty chair. On behalf of HCEC-TV, I'm Kendra Scott. Hope you have a wonderful, blessed holiday season. We will see you next time. Have a great day.